Aya! Welcome! It's Records Roundup number 22 today. I've got mostly records to show you and something else that we're going to start with in a moment. And just before I get started, as of this video being published, there'll be a matter of days until the end of my JB2K big old vinyl community contest here on YouTube. Thank you so much everybody who has entered. I'm going to hopefully make the draw this Saturday, try and get it out on the Saturday as well. If not, it'll be on the Sunday. But of course the contest itself closes at just before midnight on the 2nd of February. So if you haven't entered yet but you're interested, you've still got a few days. Put a video out, let me know in the comments of the original contest announcement video, which of course I've linked to at the top of the description here. Then you'll be entered into the contest, with the first prize being £50 and the runner-up prize being £25. While you're there, in the description text box, I've got lots of other links as well, such as Patreon, referrals, my Facebook group, and other interesting tidbits. Right then, on to the music for today. I've got a mail opening to do, and here is the mail in question. Very small jiffy envelope, as you can see. So you might be thinking, oh, it's probably a CD or something. No, it's smaller than that. It's the first one of these I've bought in a little while, because this was actually a sale item at Time Slave Recordings Bandcamp page. They had like 30% off as like a New Year sale, and I thought, you know what, I fancy getting another mini disc. And they didn't have an awful lot that was actually in stock, but they did have one, and it was a limited thing anyway. I think it's something like about 65 or 75 pressings on MD. Let's get it open. Now, Time Slave Recordings, I've talked about them a lot on this channel. Arguably the prominent synthwave indie label here in the UK. I urge you to go and check out their Bandcamp page if you're interested in synthwave music, and if you're not interested in synthwave music, then more for you. And here it is. So not an awful lot to see here. That's the front. If I can figure out which way to hold it up, it'll be that way, I believe. This is an album called, if I can even read it properly, Yeko Emeko, from a synthwave artist who I've never collected anything of his before. Yate, or Yate, I think it's probably pronounced Yate. I just got this because there was 30% off. That meant this was like about £8 something, and then a few more pound in postage. Just thought I'd give it a try. I'll pretty much take a punt on anything synthwave related. You can see the back of the mini disc there. That's actually on mini disc print in there that you can hopefully see. I mean, there's a lot of glare here. Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, I don't know much about the artist. I believe he's American and he's on the Time Slaves label. This, I think he's released stuff before this. This has also come out on vinyl and possibly cassette, but don't quote me on that. It's definitely come out on vinyl as well as mini disc. The mini disc has now sold out. I was one of the last people to be able to get this, as it wasn't a new release when I bought it. It'd been out a few months, but I didn't jump on it when it first came out like I would for, say, something from Time Cop 1983, who I'm a big fan of. But I'm looking forward to this. I think this guy, Yate, his style is kind of, there's a lot of vaporwave elements to his music as well as synthwave. He's a bit of a crossover guy from what I've heard of him. I've listened to a bit of his stuff on Bandcamp. But yeah, just glad to get another brand new mini disc release, a 21st century mini disc if you will. This is Yeko Emeko from Yate, or Yate. On to a couple more albums for the Smiths collection. Both of these were purchased from Banquet Records. That's another indie record shop here in the UK that's got a pretty decent website. First one to show you is Hatful of Hollow. So this was the Smiths' first compilation. I think this came out, it would have been either after the first album or second album. Yeah, it must have come out after Meet His Murder. It would be a bit too early to come out after the Smiths, this I think. It does have a few of the non-album, non-studio album singles on it. This of course is a more recent reissue. I say more recent, I think this might be 2012 or something like that. It does have a hype sticker on there. It's very small text, so I might struggle to read it. I think it does say something about there being John Peel and Kid Jensen radio sessions on here. So yeah, some of the stuff on here isn't necessarily the original single version or the album version, but it's some radio sessions for Radio 1. I can't remember the price of this, probably 25-ish maybe. Similar to the next album I'll show you, which I think was a bit more of a bargain, the next one, as it seemed to be a lot more money everywhere else I looked, but Banquet had a copy for a reasonable price. But that's Hatful of Hollow. What really, for me, almost completes the Smiths collection for me is their one official live album, Rank. So this came out in 1987, I believe, or was it very early 88? It'll say on screen. It's an official release from the band or from their labels at the time, which would be Rough Trade and Sire. And then this is, like all the other Smiths albums, I've got a more modern reissue remaster. I'm trying to remember where this was taken from, the concert. Kilburn's ringing a bell. There again, it'll say in the information I've put on. Rather basic hype sticker there. I do like live albums. I know live albums aren't always to everyone's taste, and some are better than others as far as sound quality and production go, but I'm interested to hear this. There's other Smiths albums, sort of more semi-official / kind of bootleg ones that are out. Same for other bands that I collect in, like there's a lot of Pink Floyd stuff that isn't necessarily 100% official. Beatles, there's loads. If you're a really big fan of someone, you could really deep dive. And that's what I've done with New Order. I've got a lot of their bootleg CDs, and if they started releasing a lot more live albums and things from these sort of third-party labels, I'd no doubt collect those. I think really this is it for the Smiths collection now. I've got all the studio albums, that's the main thing. I've got the sort of within their lifespan compilations, Hatful of Hollow, Louder Than Bombs. Oh, I've not got The World Won't Listen. That probably came out either before or after this, I think, The World Won't Listen. That's proving difficult to find at a good price, but I'm not too worried about it. Rank, a live album from the Smiths, and for all intents and purposes, at least for the moment anyway, I consider that collection parked. Now we move on to some Eurodance. Oh, I hear you groaning already. I want to show you this one here that was an absolute bargain, and I've got a Twitter account to thank for that. I can't remember the name of it's Vinyl Deals or something like that. I'll put the Twitter handle on screen now, and I urge you to give them a follow, as it's mostly Amazon that they check, but they look at Amazon listings every day, and then if there's particular albums on vinyl that have got a good discount, they'll tweet about them. And that's how I found out about this one. Ace of Base Gold. A little bit inessential for me this, as I've got the All That She Wants 4-album box set, and I think pretty much almost everything on here is contained within those 4 albums. I do love Ace of Base, I love Eurodance, and this was listed on Amazon on the day at about £8 something, brand new. Under a tenner for an album on vinyl. Must have, really, for me. There may be 1 or 2 tracks on here that are exclusive to this. I've got a feeling probably not. It's on the Demon Records label. I think this album initially was like a mid or late 2000s hits compilation, and it got renamed, repackaged. It is on gold vinyl, and yes, let's get it out and have a look. Let's open this carefully. I don't know why I used tweezers for so long to open cellophane on albums. It was very hit and miss as to whether I'd actually do it well, whereas just with this knife, as long as I don't sort of, stick it right in, then this is much better. So the inner sleeve is relatively plain on that side, but it does have some production notes and the track listing on that side. And here's the disc. Nice gold disc. I've got a few gold vinyl records now. ABBA Gold, I've got that on this colour very appropriately, and there's others as well. Ace of Base, massive in the 90s. Had a couple of really big hits over here. Well, more than a couple really, but at least a couple of them did get to #1. The Sign for one, which is the first track on side 1. Unfortunately, one of my very favourite Ace of Base singles, Never Gonna Say I'm Sorry, isn't included on here. Now, I know that single flopped in the UK. In fact, it might not have even got a UK release, but it was definitely a single in Europe, and it did well in Europe. So why that wasn't included on here, I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter, there's still good stuff on here. Life is a Flower, Happy Nation, their cover of Bananarama's Cruel Summer. I thought for under £9 brand new, that's an absolute must-have for my Eurodance or Europop collection. Ace of Base and Gold. Continue with Eurodance, and here's a couple of pickups from the German site JPC. And once again, one of these, the first one I'll show you, is really an impulse purchase, but one that I kind of found by accident, and that's happened so many times with these 1990s Eurodance reissues. And I initially found this album on Juno Records, and I didn't buy it on Juno, but Juno Records was a handy website to find it on because they've got their little media player where you can play snippets of all the album tracks, and I played some and I'm like, yeah, I've got to get this album, and I would have got it from Juno had nowhere else had it, but JPC stocked it, and there was another album I wanted to get from there anyway, so it made better sense to get both of these from JPC. But the album I'm talking about firstly is Greatest Hits of La Bouche. I'd never heard of La Bouche. They did have, I think it was a top 30 single here in the UK, and that would have been, I think, Be My Lover. I think that was their biggest hit across Europe. Quite similar to an act I'm going to talk about again after this, where it's sort of like one guy or a couple of guys behind the scenes doing the production, the music, the instrumentation, and then the front people are a male rapper, female singer. The female's name is Melanie Thornton, who was quite popular on the Eurodance scene and was tragically killed in a plane accident in 2001. If she'd have lived, then she would have no doubt stuck with La Bouche, or maybe even gone on to a successful solo career. This is a music on vinyl pressing on audiophile vinyl. Does that really count when it's a Eurodance album? Does it really have to be audiophile vinyl? I think it's music on vinyl, just trying to make it sound a bit posher than it is really. A couple of interesting cover versions on here. Where Do You Go, which was a hit for No Mercy in the mid to late 90s. Forget Me Nots. SOS, I think it's a cover of the ABBA track, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll have to listen to it. Of course I'll be listening to it, I've bought the album. On black vinyl disc, there was a couple of colour variants that were released around the same time by Music on Vinyl, but this was the only edition that both Juno and JPC had. But that's La Bouche and their greatest hits. So the second purchase from JPC alongside LaBouche Greatest Hits was a second album from an act who I got their greatest hits not too long ago. I did show it in a fairly recent records roundup, and they had another album that was up at JPC, and it was their debut studio album, reissued by Music on Vinyl, of course. And it's Two Brothers on the Fourth Floor featuring Des'ree and D-Rock, and this is the debut album Dreams. Now I say debut album, it is, but it's got some bonus stuff on. They've padded it out over 2 discs. I think LaBouche is on 2 discs as well, by the way. And they've got remixes on the second disc, side 3, and then a Ben Liebrand kind of mega mix. I love Ben Liebrand's mixes. I think he's a really good producer. He did a lot of Euro dance related stuff in the 90s, and he's considered, you know, quite a credible producer really in the, you know, electronica and dance scenes. So I'm really excited to hear the Ben Liebrand mega mix of Two Brothers on the Fourth Floor's best known hits here. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, sides 1 and 2 were just the original studio album. This is numbered. I often forget to look out for the numbers on here when I'm showing these, but this one apparently is number 413, and it'll be out of only 1,500 copies on crystal clear vinyl. Yeah, I've got to get it open and have a look, can't I did intend to get this as soon as I saw it when I got the 30th anniversary edition of the best of Two Brothers on the Fourth Floor, but I thought I'll wait and get it another time. When I order from JPC, I like to make the order worthwhile and maybe just get a couple of albums really. I have ordered just one single album from JPC before, but I think I only did that once, the very first time I used the site, just to try them out really. This is Gatefold. Very similar layout to the best of album I showed you recently. Let's get one of the discs out. Plain black inner. Yep, that's very clear, that, particularly the run out. Next disc will be the same, got your custom centre labels there. Happy to have that. I'll put that back in its Music on Vinyl adhesive outer protector in a little bit actually. Save me standing around faffing around. I love Dreams Will Come Alive, their big single, and there's other stuff that's also on the best of that I've got that I'll be familiar with now. Really happy to get Two Brothers on the Fourth Floor, featuring Des'ree and D-Rock of course, and their studio album Dreams. Right, we can end with a grail. Oh yes, a holy grail if you will. It's a collection that's complete, or it would be if this band weren't releasing probably 4 albums this year. It's actually 4 albums they released last year, but last year they came out digitally and on CD, and this year is when they're finally getting the vinyl releases, seemingly, at least the first one is, but I'll talk about that in a moment. I'm talking about this one here, the missing piece of the Weezer puzzle, Death to False Metal. Oh yes, anyone who knows me and my music collecting knows how desperate I've been for this album, and I finally took the plunge on eBay. Now then, I'm not saying this wasn't expensive, because it was. This might be pushing up there now as one of my most expensive purchases of all time for my music collection, but I got it on eBay on a day that I thought it was worth getting, even though it was quite a lot of money. I think I won a best offer and I got $30 off it. Yeah, I think this was from an American seller. And also, because my Nectar card, which is, for those who don't know, is like a British loyalty points scheme, I also got like 7 times the amount of Nectar points that I would normally get, so it ended up being almost tenner off in Nectar points as well. Well, not tenner off, but a tenner's worth that I can use to put towards a future purchase on eBay. Although with a bit, well, not more than a bit, in customs and the international postage, there wasn't much change out of about £180, £190 I know, I always said I wouldn't spend so much on an album, but I don't know when I would be able to get this again. You either shit or you get off the pot, really, when it comes to record collecting and buying expensive ones, don't you? If you can afford it and you really want it, you know, fair enough. If not, you don't get it. So, Death Default's Metal opens out into a gatefold style. This is really a compilation album, but Weezer, certainly Rivers Cuomo, considers this to be part of the studio albums canon for Weezer. And it was just the one remaining Weezer album that I needed. Now, I did say that there was potentially 4 Weezer albums coming out this year alone. Last year they released their Seasons quadrilogy. It was a CD or a digital release every 3 months or so. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. I expected that they might release like a vinyl box set of them. They classed them as EPs actually rather than albums, but I think at least the first album, the first record, Spring's got 7 or 8 tracks on it, so for me that's like a mini album really. So I'm going to call them albums even if no one else does. But Spring is getting a vinyl release pretty soon actually, so hopefully that'll be one to show you, because I have pre-ordered it from somewhere on a very special limited edition vinyl pressing. Presumably, you know, because Spring's coming out on vinyl, then 3 months later summer will, then 3 months after autumn, blah blah blah. So no box set, which was my guess as what would happen. I mean, they may still release a box set by the end of it, but they're just releasing these 4 Seasons albums or extended EPs individually this year on vinyl, which I'm very happy about because I only exclusively collect Weezer on vinyl, as you know. Look out for more Weezer, and that means I'm keeping the Weezer collection up to date right now as we speak. It's complete because of this, because Season Spring isn't out yet. So happy to get Death Default's Metal.
I need your arms to hold me now. The nights are so unkind. Bring back the nights when I held you beside me. Unbreak my heart. Say you love me again. Undo this hurt you caused when you walked out the door and walked out of my life. Uncry these tears I've cried so many nights. Unbreak my heart.
And that's your number 22 of Records Roundup done. Lots of nice stuff that I've shown you today. Smith's collection, kind of done and dusted, at least as far as I'm happy enough with it being done anyway. Weezer collection with an expensive, and that's not something I want to do, and I don't think I will be doing for a very long time, spending that much money on a long deleted and rare record. And of course some tasty Eurodance and a mini disc from an indie synthwave artist. All that good stuff here today. I do hope that you enjoyed watching this. Thank you all if you stuck with me for this long. Special thanks, as always, go to my wonderful subscribers and my generous patrons. I'm gonna go now. Loads to listen to, as always. Let me know what you're interested in this haul here today. Anything that you won't be bothered about, probably all the Ace of Base and LaBouche and what have you. But hey, I'm not even going to call it a guilty pleasure because I don't actually feel guilty about it. But I'm going to go and listen to some of that, and I do hope that all of you will join me again next time for my next Records Roundup and music collecting video. Cheers everyone. See ya!